Yay. Awesome. Good
Okay.
morning, everybody.
Good morning, Waco. Thank you so much for being here. Um, I am going to be doing, my name is Raysun Frost. I'm a local Tucson real estate agent. I'm going to be interviewing Waco Starr today on his ResMercial strategy. So it's going to be a lot of fun. If you've never heard that word before, I actually had not heard it before until I started talking with him. Last time I spoke with him, he's like, yeah, we actually, when someone does commercial and residential, we call it resmercial. And I thought, well, that's really cool. So we're going to be doing finding out lots of information today. I want to actually get started. So if you have any questions before I get into the interview, please put it in the chat because we are going to try and save a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A. So, Waco, let's just start with, where are you from?
Well, I am born and raised here in the Sonoran Desert area. A funny thing, it's a great story, but I'll make it short. My parents moved here back in '77 to Sonoyta, Arizona. It was very much like Wyoming, where they came from, and they brought their 5 kids at that time, and moved here for a better life, to do something different. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs and wanted to choose something different in a different city, in a different state. And Arizona is where they brought them. And they ended up settling down in Sonoyta. Um, I wasn't too far after they got here. I was born. My mom thought it would be a great idea. At the time, my dad had his cast iron stove company down in Nogales, Sonora, right across state borderline. And their assembly line was there, their workers were there, the building was all there. And my mom thought it would be a great idea if she had a son over in Mexico. That way they could buy the property that they were already using for the business. And so real estate already kind of started right there, kind of how like I was brought into it. So they ended up having me down in Mexico. So I am a Mexican citizen, born in Nogales, Sonora, and then brought back over a couple days later. Never getting my birth certificate was still in Spanish and everything and like that. It wasn't until I was in 5th grade where I actually got um, sworn in as a naturalized citizen because we were actually doing a uh, exchange student down to Magdalena. But so I was born in Nogales, Sonora, still Southwest. Grew up most of my life here in Tucson. We moved here in '82 from Sonoyta, um, and there my parents were buying up land and mobile homes at that time, and doing land home packages. So I was really immersed in the real estate game at a very young age. Learning from my mom, she was in mobile home sales at that time. Learning from my dad on how to work with people. Um, we would we would do a lot of the work ourselves. So anytime a tenant wasn't able to pay, we would actually go back over, clean the house up again, and put it back on the market again. So a lot of my weekends were filled with going and cleaning out a trailer and painting doors and fixing up things that to get it back up on the market again. So kind of wove right into that.
Yeah, no, that's great because typically I ask the question, how long in real estate, but it seems like you were born into it. So from
Born right
our
into
side,
it.
I think I'm actually going to say, how long have you been licensed?
8 years. 8 years
Wait,
licensed.
okay.
Going on my ninth year this year. It has been it's gone quite fast, I feel
Yeah.
like. I started off by myself, and really yearned for that team aspect. So I joined a team in 2018, at the end of 2018, and was on that team for about a year until I realized I was like, you know what I really want to do? I wanted to start my own team. So I started working with my business coach on all the aspects on what that would look like and how I want a team to be run, and brought on people who had never been in real estate before, and started training from the ground up.
Yeah.
So
And so so you've been licensed now for, going on 9 years. What made you transition from just being sort of part of family business type thing to actually getting into real estate yourself?
so what it was is, we actually had a home renovation company, that I was running. I was the project manager of, and we had been doing that for about 5 years, and we did a lot of stuff on social media, and I was always handing over our clients who were gonna purchase the home over to our real estate agent because we were getting so many inquiries from what we were doing online,
Mhm.
that I was like, "You know what? I think I see an opportunity here." And I went and got my real estate license at that time. Um, Started moving out my way out of project management and then getting into real estate, back in 2018.
Okay. And what do you love about real estate?
Oh, there are so many things that I love about real estate. When if you asked me when I was 15 about real estate, I'd be like, because I wanted to go in and see that house, that just went up on the market, or Um, you always have those dreams of those $3 million houses, or when at my time, it was $1 million houses. Um, and you just kind of see these things that houses are like people. There, there's so many different ones. They're made for everyone, and the commercial part too. I see that as a huge aspect is where we're seeing businesses coming in, and people wanting more than just renting their own space. They're wanting to be the creators of their own dreams.
Mhm.
And that's what I really love is, once you get a house underneath your belt, your business is your next thing. How are you going to run your business? How are you going to do it here in the town of Tucson? Um, I've been around here for my whole life, and watching the city grow has been incredible. I know we got some naysayers out there that want to keep Tucson small, and that's not where we're going. And you can't stand on I-19 and I-10 and say you can't come in. You know, um, we've got quite a place to share here, and there's more than enough to go around. Um, Let people come. Let's start getting businesses rocking here. Let's start getting our local businesses to buy up some of the real estate so they're not making payments to people who don't even live here. And that's really what I kind of push in my commercial area is that if you're not going to buy that building, somebody from out of state's going to come up and you're going to be renting from them. Let's find a way. Is that collaborative? Do you come in with a couple other people to buy the building and be able to utilize it all together? Is that finding an SBA loan that would work with you? Um, all of these things kind of combat all the things that we've been talking about, how you grow and how you maintain your dreams here. So,
Mhm. And it sounds like that commercial was the secondary, so you started in residential, is that correct?
correct.
So, how did you've talked about a little bit here, sort of that hinted a little bit about how you got into commercial, but can you tell us how you decided to go from residential adding on commercial versus just switching to commercial, which is what most people do, they pick one path or the other?
Right. So it kind of fell in my lap. I had a client that I was helping get his house sold, and he had mentioned me to one of his friends. I called up our reload department at the time and said, "Hey, I have a client that has some commercial needs." And the reload department said, Waco, why don't you call up Matt Bollinger, who was one of our other real estate agents in our office at the time? And she said, ask him if he'd mentor you through this process. And I said, you think I can do it? She says, oh, yeah, I think you can do it. And it was a warehouse, it was multi use. It was a gentleman who owned his welding company for 50 years. He was well known in the community, and he was getting ready to retire. Um, this little building was over off at Sunset and Orange Grove area, And, I had all these ideas on how I was going to market it, I was like, "I know the freeway's right there. I know people are gonna be driving by that freeway every day," and I got the biggest sign you could possibly big old banner, hung it from, I don't know, it must have been 15 by, I don't know, 8 8 feet long, 15 feet wide, 8 feet, like, had my number, Waco Starr, call, and I had gotten so many phone calls off of that, that it's just kinda started snowballing. I started working with a granite company. I started working with an electrician who was looking for a building, and I started seeing all of these people who were done renting, done leasing, or ready to go out on their own, and it was really pleasing to me. I was like, I wanna help them with their dreams. I wanna help them find their buildings, um, and it just got like I said, it just kinda snowballed.
So you actually said a phrase in there, which is very common to residential real estate agents, which is, okay, when you're done renting, then you can buy a home, right? Why keep paying someone else's mortgage, right?
Mhm.
So that's the same exact principle I'm hearing you talk about in terms of working with commercial. And I would love for you to highlight for us some of the similarities and differences, or pros and cons, however you want to lay them out there, between residential and commercial, so that we can kind of get a feel or a pulse for what it might be like to start thinking about these things.
Yeah. So, things that are the same. Um, things that are the same. I mean, like you said, leasing and moving into buying, that very, very typical in that part. Um, I think it's something that this is, you got first time home buyers, you've got first time, I call them first time building owners. Um, People who are they're wanting more. The You can tell when you're talking to your clients, they're wanting more. They want more from what their current either living status is, like a home, or their current business status where they're at leasing. And so you can hear it in their voices, and when they're getting excited and they're talking about where they want to go, sides of town that they want to be on. Um, the other thing that I see it as, it's an opportunity. You Once you move into these areas of want, and then you're creating these dreams to put together for their final building, what they're getting in at the very end. Um, I had worked with a wellness company this last year. They are mental health. They saw a huge need during COVID, and the wife was already doing online counseling and all these different things. And this year they actually bought a building, and it was 3 suites. They had big dreams for these 3 suites. They were going to be able to put their um, therapists in, but then also bring on the wellness part, which was esthetician, red light therapy, all of these things that kind of go hand in hand. And we found the building for, it was like, I think on the market for 599 at the time. We ended up getting it for 5. They went in and put like about $300,000 into the building. It's beautiful. They did such an incredible job. And working through them for that, we were working together for about 8 months trying to find something. Um, the, um, the transaction was a little bit longer, which you guys won't definitely understand is why transactions are a little bit longer in commercial. There's a lot more moving parts and there's a lot more layers. So what we see in, regular residential seller's disclosures, think of that like 10 more times over. There's so many other parts of the building. Um, there's different ways and you're looking at it. Um, you know, like I said, just a lot of different layers. Once we get in there, I won't get into these right now, but it it is very similar into the real as a residential real estate agent and commercial. Things just take longer. There's a lot more, I would say, steady hand. you're guiding your clients through even a larger purchase, than, a regular house. Um, this is somewhere they're gonna be living. This is a secondary. We are gonna have another mortgage on this property. There's gonna be a lot more things that go along with running your business. But if you're already doing that, then you already know what you're doing every day that's gonna get you to the next, place. So, oh, did I answer?
Yeah, no.
Sometimes I go into tangents and I don't know.
No, it's great. You mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned sort of the differences in the contracts. That's one reason, we say in real estate, even in residential, if you're doing a different type of home, right, to have a mentor with you or to help you get through some of the differences in the contracts. One of the things I've heard about, I would love for you to answer is just that the networking for finding buildings is a lot less cohesive. I've heard, and I would love to know. I have heard that it is a lot more individual. Like um, every commercial real estate agent has like their set listings, and it's a lot less interactive, a lot less uh collaborative amongst the agents than in the residential world.
So that's something, yes, it can be that way. That's not how I like to play the game. I as an agent jumped in, the way that I do with everything. I love people. I know that there's enough business out there for everybody. There are different, facets for each person to take and make it their own. Um, Networking is a huge part of my business. I work with tons of residential real estate agents and tons of commercial agents. Um, One thing that I did was when I jumped in, I got into our Southern Arizona CCIM commercial chapter. And that is a group that meets once a month. We have CE classes and either some type of speaker or panel that is up there discussing some type of um, idea, issue, new ideas, things like that, uh, to over I think there's usually 100 people in that room. And getting in, with your local title companies. I do a lot of stuff with Bob Ditko, and Eva Hendricks. They're always big supporters of our commercial and, just getting in there and finding out what part you wanna be in. But I wanna let you know, it is a lot harder than residential real estate. You're, I know, once popping into it, you, you can see that, like I said, the layers are a lot. There's a lot more to know. You have a lot more, um, on your plate taking care of these clients that are putting in, sometimes millions of dollars into their project, their property, and you want to make sure it's the best one. Now, I know you talked about there's a lot of different properties out there, and one thing that I directly kind of keep in my lane sometimes, warehouses. I do multi-use, office and medical buildings. And then I always get some really, really interesting ones. Right now I have, um, a movie theater or sorry, a movie studio slash, museum and, event space down in, Benson. It's called Gammons Gulch. But the fun thing about this is my clients live on that property. So it's a live workspace. So it's also a residence of 10 acres with 17 historic buildings on it. So the way that you market your properties, you really kind of have to look at it in so many different facets, in so many different perspectives that you go, who's going to want this? There's always one person. There's going to be lots of people for houses, but when you think of, like a business building or a movie set or a horse boarding facility or a dog boarding facility, there's one person, and, you have to find them. Um, I've noticed with, commercial, there is a lot more dual agency because people are out looking for that specific thing. They really don't have a real estate agent yet, and you're the first one that they come to. They're the first one that you call. Um, and so you're usually working dual agency on these, which is something I really enjoy. I like to have the control of both sides. Paperwork gets done on time. You know, you're not constantly calling the other agent saying, "Hey, can you send that over?" Um, I like it. I truly gonna bring out both sides of myself. I'm a Gemini, so I love working the both sides. It keeps my brain, active, and I just enjoy it. So just as far as encompassing the parts of commercial that are the difficult parts, um, I think it's one of those things is having the group of, people that you can fall back on, ask questions with. Like I said, CCIM has been great. We have a great group at Long that kind of we share our ideas and stuff like that. So we're able to do that. The last year I brought on a partner, and so her name is Veronica Von Drack. She's been helping me out with a lot of things, and she's been doing great herself. I know that it can feel overwhelming sometimes when you look at commercial and see all the things. Zoning is a big one. Not all buildings are created the same. Um, Sometimes you get clients in, like, I would love to have that building as my office or my retail store, and I'm like, they'll just it won't work for that. And so you have to there's a lot more guidance, a lot more teaching about each building, each zoning law, what can fit in there, what can't fit in there, um, things like that.
So it sounds like if you love details and love to research, because every single property is going to require way more research than a residential home, that you have a potential to really love doing commercial. Um,
Yes.
and I have one last question for you, and then I'd like to see if anyone else here has any questions. And that is, what are you looking to create more, better, or different in your business this year?
So this year, I'm probably going to be switching over to. No, I want to not really say full time commercial. I still am in my residential, but this year I am almost switched over to completely 80 20, which is about 80% commercial and 20% residential. And so that's a big one for me. I was looking at my listings the other day. I have one house that I'm selling right now, and everything else is commercial. So I want to be better for our Tucson business community this year. Being able to um, get businesses into their brick and mortars, getting them into their dreams, being able them to start creating some equity on their larger purchases of buildings, and maybe help them see the way out to open up another office, another location, things like that.
Thank you. Do any of our guests have any questions for Waco? Yes, Brandon, I actually don't know, but you might need to put can you unmute?
Hey, everybody. Hi, Waco.
Good morning, Brandon. How are you?
Good, great, thanks. How are you?
Good, good.
Hey, how do you feel about the agent's business acumen? Do you feel like that's, really important, especially for the industries that you're going to serve in that commercial? And if like, how much do they need to know and where can they get that information?
One of the things is, and we didn't get to talk about, is the mentoring process. So each brokerage should have some type of mentoring program for their agents, being able them if they do have questions about getting into it, have someone there that can, at least give them the first, bout of information. Uh, letting them know what the things are that they're gonna be, encompassing, taking on. Um, it's not something that I would take lightly. It's not like I would just go, "Oh, I think I wanna go do commercial today." One of the things that I, have built up in my business is, I've been around Tucson for a really long time. I've been in the community for a long time. My background, social work, you know, I've done project management. You're getting to know a lot of the vendors around Tucson, business owners, knowing business yourself on how people are running their businesses. Um, the mentoring, making sure that they are fully given what they need to do to go out and be successful. Do you have a mentor that, that has been in the business for a while? I've been doing this for going on 5 years. So commercial was something that I started intervening back when I would say it was probably about 4 years into residential real estate. Um, I had already had that business aspect behind me and, kind of was thirsty for more. And so that's when I started working with Matt, where we did 7 deals together. And that's how our, Long Realty puts it together is there's 7, then you're able to go out on your own. But I really wanna say where I've been getting a lot of my charge from is the CCIM. Um, Going to the classes every month. They have their 101s that are going to be coming up to get your designation through CCIM. I highly, I highly promote them because there are what sets a standard for our community. And I think, you know, I don't know how many agents continue to work with CCIM after they get their internal designation from their brokerage, but I can tell you that it's helped me a lot. What I really like about it is the camaraderie, is once you're in there and they start knowing who you are. I get a lot of agents that say, "Oh, commercial agents don't answer their phones, they don't get back to me." Well, it is a very close-knit group, and if you're just, like, calling on behalf of your client that day, which you really shouldn't be, I would get them into a commercial agent right away. You're a residential real estate agent. You really don't have any part calling up commercial agents and asking them a whole slew of questions when some of those questions you probably should have already known before calling up that agent. So I would if you have a client that is interested in commercial or wants to buy a building, get them over to a known commercial agent. Get them in there and get them the right, um, um, representation that they need.
And if, like you, this is their having a client who's interested in, the commercial building, that's their start to leaning into the commercial side, then,
Right.
find a really good mentor and make sure you partner with them on it, and that can be a great way to figure out whether or not commercial is going to be it for you or not, and you can find out, right? Partnering with
Right.
somebody, working a deal with someone, you can say, "Hey, yeah, I love this," or, "From now on, I'm just gonna send them to you."
Right.
Yeah, testing the waters. Great. Well, we are at the bottom of the hour. Does anyone else have any last questions they would like to ask related to commercial, residential, ResMercial strategy for real estate agents?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go for
I
it.
know I'm not an agent, but I wanted to come just because you guys are both awesome. And Waco has a lot of personality, which is one of the things I love about him. And I noticed your residential properties have had a lot of personality, like really cool historic mid-century homes. So I'm just kind of curious, do you ever get like bored with, well, not bored with commercial, but like, how do you feel about like residential versus commercial when it comes to personality?
Oh, good question. Good question. Sierra, really good question. So, it was one of the things that commercial does or residential does get a little repetitive for me. And one thing about commercial is, I mean, each one is so different. The building is different. The process is different. Um, I don't want to say the paperwork is different. The paperwork is still the same, but the process. And I mean this by you still have your characters out there, your clients, everyone's different. You've got great people that are coming to you and asking for your assistance and your representation. And I think one of the things is it's not that I feel that sometimes residential gets a little repetitive, and you kind of almost sometimes can get stuck in a repetitive state. And one thing that commercial did was kind of brought me out of that and seeing it in a different light, going, how can I help people over here? And I really saw that I shined over there. Not that I didn't shine over in residential, but I really enjoyed the Tucson part of it, is growing our Tucson business base. We have so much more coming. We're just at the tip of the iceberg here in Tucson. We're on the verge of becoming we're already cool, and we all knew it, but we're going to be even cooler. Like, Tucson is just like I said, the tip of the iceberg. We're like a baby Austin, Texas. We're like um, places that people always talk about. "Hey, did you go to Tucson this weekend? Did you go and try out those amazing enchiladas down at blah blah blah?" We're going to become the food capital. We already are. We're already on this destination of becoming a really amazing city, town, and a destination place for a lot of people. And that's where I see myself shining, is being able to get some of our incredible businesses into these spaces before we have like out of state um, investors coming in and kind of taking over. And so that's really where I see it, um, and helping people get into those spaces before it's too late. That help?
Great. That. Yeah. Thank you so much, Waco. I really loved getting to know you a lot better, as well as getting a little taste of some of the pros and cons, similarities and differences between commercial and residential. Thanks for being our guest today.
Well, thanks for having me.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.